Hi, this is Jeremy Murphy. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the middle of the United States, and I wanted to wish all of you a happy leap day of this leap year. We have an opportunity every 4 years to do something that maybe we don't do and catch up on things, be more active, do more exercise, run a little more. And I'm encouraging all of you to think about running heartily. Um, I asked a question a while back on my Periscope and also on other channels, asking people, are you running hardly or are you running heartily? And I didn't get a lot of responses, but I think it's a good question because I think some of us are having problems with illness, injuries, things come up, and sometimes some of that can be cured by being a little bit more active. So I'd encourage you to do that. Before we get rolling here, I'm going to give you a couple different ways to reach me and explain who I am and my background. I'm an RRCA certified running coach. I'm a certified Dr. Sears health coach. And so I have websites for both of those, and I'll hold those up and see if we can get them on the screen. You can see the running blog is at runninggrooveshark.com. The health coach website is at coachjeremymurphy.com. And my Twitter handle is Jeremy P. Murphy. So that's how you can reach me. And let me explain why heart health is so important. As we age, our hearts start to operate a little bit differently. Sometimes our patterns of behavior might become a little more, I would say sedentary or less active. I'm trying to be complimentary, but maybe less active is a better way to put it. Sometimes it's not necessarily sedentary, but sometimes we need to counter steps. And if we don't do that, we realize that we don't, that maybe we're not as active as we think we are. And I've found for myself as a runner, I'm an ultramarathoner. I'm an asthmatic ultramarathoner. I've run 15 full marathons and one ultramarathon, 150K. And I found once I started tracking my steps, I found that I was doing a lot of hard runs, long runs, and then I was just kind of being more sedentary than I should be. And I realized that because the VivoFit has a red bar that tells you if you need to get up and move. And every 15 minutes or an hour, it puts a different red bar on there, and so it'll, buzz or blink at you and tell you, you need to move. So I decided I would try to do that, and I sort of got a wake up call on this myself. I found out a couple years ago I had high cholesterol and high triglycerides, and that surprised me because I figured, well, I'm a full marathoner. I've run, all these long distances. I can run it off. I can eat whatever I want. And I learned that's really not the case, and that diet has a big impact on really on our athletic performance. So and our health also. I sort of looked at my diet and nutrition. My doctor told me you've got to make some changes, but didn't really tell me what they would be. And so that set me on this journey of becoming a more healthy person, making health my hobby, being a running coach, becoming a health coach, and really trying to figure out how to optimize and maximize my athletic performance and to be a more healthy person, and obviously to lose weight. Part of my problem with the high cholesterol was I think I was, it was just stress management. I wasn't handling stress very well. I was getting stressed out, and I was eating too much and eating the wrong foods and things like that. So I stopped eating meat on Mondays. And today it is Meatless Monday, also leap day. Had already stopped eating meat on Fridays, but there are things we can do for our heart to improve its health. And one of the things is to simply be more active. So like I said, to run more. But we also want to make sure we're not overexerting ourselves. So how do we make sure we're not doing that? Well, we need to probably calculate what our maximum heart rate is, and there are different ways to do that. The simplest way is to take 220 and subtract your age. That produces a number that might be a little bit off, and so there's a different competing mathematical way to calculate that. But one way is to track it with a heart rate. monitor. And this is my heart rate monitor for the treadmill. This is an Adidas one. Pretty good. Pretty reliable. Haven't really had any problems with this. I've noticed if I run hard on the treadmill, sometimes the Adidas one, I think, might show heart rates a little above what I would expect or might be true. So I don't know if there's a mathematical margin of error with these, but I suspect there could be with some of them. I shouldn't be running, really above that 200 number with me being 47. But I've seen some fluctuations like that with this particular heart rate monitor. So I don't know if those were erroneous or not, or if I was simply stressed out. But one thing I noticed on the treadmill, and I want to make this clear to everyone because I think this could be helpful. One of the peaceful, serene places for me, one of the most peaceful places that I've ever visited is the Caribbean. And so when I get stressed out and worried and concerned, and I happen to be running, sometimes the things I think about when I'm running are things that stress me out or I get concerned or worried about. So I found that by thinking of the Caribbean, that I was able to drop my heart rate about 20 beats or so. And this has happened time and time again using this heart rate monitor, the Adidas one. And so I call it Caribbean stress management. And I have written about that in my blog. And I probably need to do a follow-up one now because, implementing that at a deeper level, I've had some more remarkable results. I also have a Garmin heart rate monitor. It goes with my, this is what it looks like. I'll get it close here. This goes with the Garmin Forerunner 620. And sometimes the Garmin is, I don't know, actually this one is sort of worn out. I need to probably replace this one. And I don't know, there's something about draining the battery or something like that. Garmin's told me what to do, but I don't fully understand it. And someone warned me, you want to make sure you do it correctly or you really mess up the heart rate monitor. But I think we can become too tethered to these devices. And I'm not sure that necessarily that's a good thing. Then you get to a point where you can become obsessed with what your heart rate is. And some of running it has to be internalized to the point that you're not relying on data entirely to improve your performance. You're relying on sort of running by feel to some extent. And this takes practice. I mean, I'm not saying you can snap your fingers and go out there and run by feel and fix everything and be happy and healthy. And it's not that easy. Takes time, takes effort. But I want to make you aware that these heart rate monitors are out there. You can track them different ways. Some people have watches where you can track your heart rate, or you can check your pulse. It's pretty easy to check your pulse. But at the point in my life where I had high cholesterol, my wife's insurance company had a policy where if your blood pressure was above a certain level, you're kind of screened further to see if you have other issues. And of course, high cholesterol and high triglycerides they're sort of markers of possibility of heart disease. And sometimes heart disease and diabetes tend to coincide. If there's an issue of, sometimes we just are carrying around too much freight, too much weight. Maybe it's more polite to call it too much freight. We'll call it too much freight to be nice about it. And I've been there. I've had that situation. And when I realized that weight loss would allow that cholesterol level to go down, that and improving my nutrition, I decided I absolutely have to do that. I have a lovely wife. I have a lovely daughter, a beautiful dog. I'm not gonna do anything to jeopardize my health. I want to be here as long as possible and be as healthy as possible so that we can enjoy life to the fullest extent together. So I lost more than 45 pounds by taking control of my health, taking it seriously, and really making an effort to run for health, to run with my health in mind, not just and not just the health of my lungs. I'm an asthmatic, so this is an issue that I frequently talk about, the health for the lungs, but I don't frequently talk about the heart health. And since it is Heart Health Month, I guess I got the idea for this from a Twitter chat that we held last week on Heart Health Month that was sponsored by Bryan Hospital in Lincoln, where I live. And they asked me to participate in it as a running coach and, a runner prominent in the running community here. And so I was happy to do that. We had a cardiologist that was on answering questions. And, we all have to, it's good for us to exercise, maybe at least 230 minutes a week. I think that's the numbers that cardiologists are telling us. And how you split that up, that's up to you. They're not saying we have to do that all in one day. They're not saying we have to work out 7 days a week, but maybe 4 or 5 at least is pretty good. And for some people, maybe every other day. And, some of us have chronic conditions that require some modifications, and you can have injuries and illness. I've had to make some modifications in my workout schedule with asthma. If my asthma flares up, I've got to deal with the inflammation issue if it surfaces. So really, finding your sweet spot with exercise is something that it's going to vary for each of us. And as we age, we need to be more conscious of it's just much easier to overexert ourselves as we age, especially if we're more sedentary, because then our arteries start to narrow and harden, and they fill up with this sticky stuff, this sludge that's not really good for us. And really, we need to get out there and be active. We have, our endothelium has the capacity to give us natural medicine in the form of nitric oxide that can really keep our heart more healthy, keep our body more healthy. And then if the heart is, it's a muscle, it has to be flexed. It has to be strengthened and flexed. And if it doesn't get flexed, if it doesn't get strengthened, it doesn't function as well. You start to get heart irregularities or heart disease. A lot of people die of heart attacks, very high number, much higher than it should be. And some of these people maybe didn't even know they have heart disease, but I think in a lot of cases, it's because we're not handling stress very well. So one tip I would give you is to try to relax, to take time out from your day, whether it's 5 minutes, 1 minute, an hour, meditate, unplug from technology, maybe put your phone in airplane mode and just unplug from the world. We're so interconnected with each other, but we don't have to be interconnected with each other 24/7. We can do it 23/7 or 23/6. I mean, you can subtract some days and an hour here and there. And, if we unplug from the world for an hour a day, is the world really going to notice? Probably not. Maybe our spouses, families, and close friends and children might. Our dogs probably would too. but otherwise, people don't really notice if you're unplugged for an hour. You don't want to do it during a time where people need to reach you for work activities or other discussions that you're participating in. But I want to make you aware that it's very important that we take our heart health seriously. And if we do so, we can be more healthy. And so when I took control of my health, and when I realized that already having asthma, I didn't want to risk having heart disease also, I just decided I don't want to go down that road. I didn't want to go down the statin road. So I decided I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something holistic. I'm going to do something that might be slightly crazy to some people. So I just decided to become more active. I decided to become a run streaker. And so now I run every day. This is the 833rd day in a row that I've run a mile or more. I'm aiming for at least 888 days, maybe 1,000 or more. It just, it depends on a lot of things, some of which I don't have complete control over. We all have issues with our families and sometimes we aren't able to completely control something like this. So, but we need to make sure that we're taking steps to improve our health. And if we do that, we can achieve greater success, greater health in a holistic sense, and really take our health to the next level. So once I did that, and lost all that weight, lost the 45 pounds. It just, my running became so much easier. And my heart rate, my blood pressure went from being right on the border of where I would have been screened for additional possibility of heart disease to, more of a, wow, I haven't seen blood pressure this low in years, and a pulse rate that's way lower than it was. It just, making the effort to take heart health more seriously, it makes a huge difference. But we also have to take steps to relax, to unwind, need to track our heart rate somehow, and find ways, but without really being completely tethered to it. I'm torn on whether we should do that 100% of the time. And if you have heart disease or some chronic condition like that, and your doctor tells you to track it all the time, absolutely do it. But if not, it kind of becomes up to us to take a little bit of control over that and decide, how much wearing a heart rate monitor, do I need to do it every day? I run a lot in the summers, and so sometimes I have, that heart rate monitor will cut my chest if I'm running 17, 20 miles or something like that. And I've learned you can put KT tape under it, kinesiology tape that you can get at CVS or Target or from kttape.com. And that helps quite a bit to prevent the chafing or whatever that the heart rate monitor would otherwise produce. But I think there are watches that will currently show your heart rate on your wrist, or at least your pulse rate. And I think, I'm not sure if the Apple Watch does or not. I'm about to find out. I just won an Apple Watch and a Meerkat giveaway, and I really didn't expect it. It does. Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't know. I wasn't sure if it did or not. So, hey, welcome. I've seen you in some of the other. I've seen you in some of the Run Connect running summit. So, yeah, I was talking about accuracy earlier. The Adidas heart rate monitor that I wear with treadmill. We have a Boston Marathon treadmill, and this thing, sometimes it'll say my heart rate's over 200 if I'm pushing really hard. And that's not really the heart rate that I should be seeing as a 47-year-old. I should be seeing something much lower. But I started talking to friends about that, and they said, hey, we get sort of weird things like this in the treadmill too, and sometimes it's not entirely accurate. But I also want to make you aware, though, I have serious runner friends that are starting to get they're starting to have heart problems pop up. And, they're tracking their heart rates, and suddenly they realize, wait a minute, this is not normal. My heart rate's up here and it should be way down here. And so what I recommend, if you do start to have issues like that, you need to see your doctor. And sometimes you need to get to a specialist. You need to get to a cardiologist that really knows what they're talking about. I think for a lot of us, we push too hard, we overtrain. And so what happens is our heart rate's up here when it should be down here more of the time. More of our runs should really be at more of a conversational pace. And I think a lot of us are running pretty hard sometimes, and it's hard to talk at conversational pace without taking 4 or 5 breaths or something like that. So, but that's something that we need to be more conscious of. I'll tell you for myself, I had friends that were using the Phil Maffetone method of running, and Dr. Maffetone came up with a way of doing low heart rate training. And so what you do is, and I'm oversimplifying it, and you can find more information. I think it's at philmaffetone.com, and he wrote a book about it, and I think it's called the Maffetone method. And it's pretty common. It's like probably one of the top 10 books of running in a lot of people's lists. But what it has you do is you start tracking your heart rate, and once a month you do what he calls a MAF run. So what you're doing is you're trying to keep your heart rate in zone 2 at a pretty low range, and then you track that trend over several months. And if you're training correctly and doing this right, your heart rate, your heart rate for a slow run should be, going down if you're doing this correctly. And sometimes if you have a stressful month, your MAF run will, you'll have occasional blips where it goes upward. But I found that doing this, my heart rate started going like this, and I realized, wow, I started looking at how fast am I doing these long, slow distance runs on the weekends, and I realized, oh wow, I'm turning some of these into fast fartlek runs, and that's not really what they're supposed to be. But if somebody passes you, you want to pass them back, and it's it's a runner's instinct. Yeah, thanks for dropping that link in. I appreciate that. So that's helpful. Let's see. So I for a while I thought that the MAF method was really what I needed to stick to, and then I kind of thought this over, and I figured out, for me, I need to sort of go by feel, not entirely, but a little bit. I mean, if your running instincts go back, I've been running full marathons since 1988. So I have pretty good instincts most of the time. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes, and that's why it's helpful to wear a heart rate monitor every once in a while. But like I said, the trick, the trick is to stick with it. And if you have a month where your MAF run jumps up to, just be persistent, try it again the next month. And, that you'll tend to see sort of a downward trend. And, once you do this for 5 or 6 months in a row, you start to become more conscious. I know that if I'm running about 13 minutes a mile, that's about where my MAF range is. And if I'm running faster than that, it tends to barely jump above zone 2. And it's more complicated if you have a dog. Sometimes the puppy wants to run fast, and sometimes she wants to run slow. And sometimes I just, I'll be pulling back in the leash a little more so I can maybe do that MAF run with her, because it's like about a mile run where you're just trying to keep your run in that range. You can do MAF runs of different lengths, and people will put the MAF acronym. If you see the MAF initials at the end of a run or in somebody's description, it means they're kind of testing the MAF tone method or working on perfecting their skill with it. So, that's a valuable way to do this. It's not the only way to do it. Some will, and again, some people need to be using heart rate monitors all the time if they're told to by their doctors, by their cardiologists, especially. If you have heart disease that's diagnosed or issues like that, you need to track that very closely. But I think for the rest of us, I think we can maybe track our heart rate every once in a while, at least check that we're not having a problem. And like I said, there's value in that with my, with my treadmill. I told you the experiment that I did where I visualized the Bahamas. I had all these stressful things that were coming in my head, and I was trying to, sweep them out of there. And I tested different things, and my heart rate was still staying up. But when I got to the Bahamas and I thought about the Caribbean Sea, and I could see it and I could hear it, and I internalized it, my heart rate just went down 20 points, 20 beats a minute. And I that was powerful for me. I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm not there. How could this possibly work? And it is. It's like pausing it's pressing the pause button in your life and going back to when you were there. And the sound is so real, and the color of Caribbean blue and the island, and just the atmosphere is so laid back and relaxed. And what I discovered was this was a powerful way for me to go from being a type A personality to being a more relaxed type B personality, and that was better for my heart, that I needed to relax. I tend to get too excited about things, and that's not a way I want to live, because I know, what that can do. It can elevate your heart rate too much if we're just allowing stress to continue to jump up and control where we are and what we're doing. And, that's just not I found it wasn't a healthy way for me anyway to live. So I just want to encourage all of you to take your heart health seriously, and to do so early enough that we can prevent a lot of problems. And if we can prevent a lot of problems, then we're not, having heart disease pop up, and then you start to see it run in families, and some of it is hereditary, but some of it is also, caused by our environment, by what we eat, and how active we are. And if we're more active and we're, like I said, the heart's a muscle. We have to exercise it. We have to flex it. We have to strengthen it. And if we don't do that, we're not going to, we're going to have heart issues surface at some point. It just doesn't, heart doesn't function as well. And if we're more active, it can, cause more blood to flow with less effort. And, the heart rate goes down, the blood pressure goes down, the resting pulse rate goes down. And we should be tracking things like that. We should be tracking our resting pulse rate. I mean, some people will track that monthly or weekly. Some doctors will have their patients track that to keep track of where they are. And I think if we discover that with the power of our mind, that we have the ability to control some of these things, that's a very powerful realization that I'm trying to spread with as many people as possible, because I don't want to see people have to go through the trouble of being diagnosed with heart disease or having a heart attack be the wake-up call that really shakes us to our core and makes us change our behavior. We have the ability to change our behavior now. And so let's do that. Let's find ways to be more healthy, be more happy, be more active, and to really find ways to make our heart healthy. And so I just wanted to at least bring Heart Health Month to a close by talking about this a little bit. And, I talk a lot about running for our lungs, but we do need to run for our heart. Our heart is a muscle. We have all kinds of muscles in our body. The lungs similarly need to be exercised. And that's why, my asthma is so much more controlled when I'm active. It's when I'm sedentary or feel lazy, not running or exercising enough, that's when the asthma tends to flare up. Some of it is, more environmental. I mean, it could be affected by pollen and things like that. But interestingly enough, I sort of learned this from Teddy Roosevelt. I'm a historian. I have a history degree. I don't really do much with it other than, pursue historical interests when I can. But Teddy Roosevelt realizes too that if he was more active, he could control his asthma. And he had much more severe asthma than I did. And, it got to the point where, he was probably exercising a little too much. and we all do that. But I think it's interesting that this theory's been out there for a while, at least in history. And now we're starting to see some of the science back it up, that if we're more active, our lungs function better. We have greater efficiency with our heart, our lungs. And if the heart and the lungs are functioning well and functioning together, that's really the way they're designed to function. If you're struggling with either one of those, then you have problems with the other one. And like I said, with heart disease, if it surfaces, it can eventually lead to diabetes. And sometimes people are diabetic and they develop heart disease as kind of a related condition. So I just know that I know a lot of people who are diabetic, and I'm trying to make them aware of this. And I know a lot of people with heart disease that don't have the diabetes issue yet. And hopefully if we can change some of our behavior, we can prevent the other condition from occurring. But like I said, if we make health and weight loss and really being healthy and active, if we make that our priority, if we make health our hobby and take it seriously, we can do great things with our running. And sometimes we don't always reach every objective. Sometimes you have a stressful moment or a stressful race or a stressful week or month, and we need to let that go. I mean, we have the power to reset our minds and our future every day. And so it's important to try to take advantage of that. And if we have a bad day, a bad run, I mean, everybody has this happen where you come back and you say, oh, that run was terrible. what the heck? You don't even know what the heck happened. And then you start to figure out, you unravel the situation and you figure out what the story was that may have led to this happening this way. And, sometimes we're able to figure it out. Sometimes we just have to write it off and move on. But I want to encourage all of you to check out my blog. It's runninggrooveshark.com. Here, I'm going to write it in the chat. I held up the card, but I better. So that's where you can reach me for the running blog. And my health coach website is coachjeremymurphy.com. And on Twitter, that's my favorite social network. You can reach me at, I'm at Jeremy Murphy. I'm not going to type the at here. I think it will tag me on Blab, which is sort of strange. But I'm happy to talk about running. I'm a Move It Monday ambassador, also a Run Chat ambassador. We have a Run ambassador, sorry. We have a Run Chat every week on Sunday nights. There's an ultra chat for people who are interested in trail or ultra races. And we have, runners of both types there, people that are just trying to learn more about it. Trail races are wonderful. And trail races, connecting with nature is a wonderful way to relax and, relax internally, relax our brains, relax our heart, relaxes our breathing. If we connect with trees and the sun and animals, it's a wonderful way to relax and unwind. And it's usually free. And we forget that we have this capacity to do something like this. We're always looking for a quick fix and that type of thing. And I'm not saying that if you make running the solution to your heart issues or problems that you might be having, that it's necessarily going to work all by itself, because nutrition is part of it. Sleep and rest is part of it. Hydration is part of it. And, your lifestyle is part of it, managing your stress. So we've got to deal with the lifestyle, exercise, attitude, and nutrition. So the mindset and motivation is part of it too. So make sure that you, do something to have a healthy, happy heart. And if we can be healthy, we can encourage others to be healthy also, be good examples for our families, our friends, and really help spread the message of health throughout the world in whatever way we can, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to spread whatever has worked for me, or tips or tricks that I've used to try to help others and try to make people aware of this Caribbean stress management thing that I'm testing and working on. And maybe that's not going to work for everybody. Everybody would have a different peaceful place where you just have a internal bliss is at its highest point. So wherever that is, imagine it. Maybe for some people it would be the Great Wall of China. Maybe for others it would be on a mountain in Alaska or the Rocky Mountains next door to us in Colorado. But find that happy, blissful place. Take yourself there when you're running. Still be mindful of what you're doing, but watch what happens to your heart rate. Try it. It's amazing. You have to believe it's going to work. And sometimes you have to test it a little bit to get it to work, but it has an amazing capacity to help us relax. And if we can relax, manage our stress, be more active, watch our nutrition, fix our attitudinal problems, our doubts that we have about our ability to achieve success with running, I think that sometimes interferes with our ability to succeed. Sometimes we have a fear of failure. Sometimes we have a fear of success. We can have, if you're running your first ultra marathon, you can have a fear that you're going to succeed, and where that's going to lead to longer and longer and longer races, and then you become afraid of failure, of a DNF, a did not finish. But sometimes we learn. Sometimes we learn so much from those things where we think we failed. They're really just life lessons. I had a marathon where I didn't finish. And it wasn't anything I had control over. It was a my gut that got to the point where it couldn't digest Gatorade, and at 21 miles, I could not finish, and it's the first race I've ever not finished. But I learned so much from that about changing my nutrition and hydration habits and making sure that I'm testing exactly everything that I'm using in a race, and not kind of testing things on the fly. That just doesn't tend to work. We have to test what we're going to use during a race, during our warm-up runs and our training runs. So anyway, I wanted to wish all of you a happy leap year and leap day. I hope you can stop running hardly and start running heartily. Keep in mind your heart health, and tell others that you can do something with them. Offer to go running with someone or walking. Take your dog for a walk. Take your dog for a run, or both. Dogs love to exercise, and if you get your dog worn out, your dog will sleep better, and you can get more work done. So once again, this is Jeremy Murphy in Lincoln, Nebraska. I want to thank all of you for joining me. I'm going to wrap this up, and thank you for joining. And we'll go from there. But again, remember, it's Heart Health Month until the end of the day here. I just thought with Leap Day being the last day of the month, it'd be a good opportunity to make sure that people know that it's Heart Health Month, and to be conscious of that, and to really take steps to have a more healthy, happy heart, have a more healthy and happy lifestyle. But run heartily, my friends. Run heartily. Bye.